In this video, we'll take a look at the viewport controls in Unreal Engine. We'll go over each control to navigate a viewport, like selecting objects, looking and flying around in a level, moving, rotating, and scaling objects, and how to change various controls and options. So let's get started. First, let's go over the two view modes of viewports in Unreal Engine: perspective and orthographic. Perspective view can be used to edit our level in a 3-dimensional or 3D space, while orthographic view is used for editing in 2-dimensional or 2D space. If you're using the split or combo view layouts, you can use perspective and orthographic views simultaneously. The controls that we'll list in this video will be split by perspective and orthographic controls as you follow along. And to get us started, let's take a look at selecting objects in a level. By pressing the left mouse button on an object, we can select it. We can then manipulate this object by moving, rotating, and scaling it using the gizmo on the selected object, or change its properties in the Details panel. Selecting another object will deselect this one. So if I press the left mouse button over the green cube, the blue one will be deselected. In order to select multiple objects, we can hold down the Control key and press the left mouse button on new objects. Let's jump into an orthographic view to do this in 2D. Selection works the same way here as in perspective view. Pressing the left mouse button will select a single object. Holding down Control and pressing left mouse button will select multiple objects. Additionally, you can create a marquee selection box to select multiple objects by holding down the left mouse button and dragging your mouse over an area. If we hold down Control or Shift while doing this, we'll add the newly selected objects to the current list of selected objects. Now that you know how to select objects, let's also take a look at moving, rotating, and scaling objects in the level. The transform tools can be used to move, rotate, and scale selected objects in the viewport. You can see which tool is active and switch to a different one using the options in the top left corner of the viewport. You can also switch between the transform tools by using their keyboard shortcuts as follows. The Q key will select the selection tool, which only selects an object and disables the transform tools that are used to move, rotate, and scale objects. The W key will select the translate tool, which can be used to move objects along single or multiple axes. The E key will select the rotate tool, and the R key will select the scale tool. You can also use spacebar to cycle through the transform tools. When you have a transform tool selected, you can use its gizmo in the viewport to manipulate the selected object. For example, if we press the W key, we will see the Translate tool active in the tools list on the top left corner of the viewport toolbar. If we have an object selected, we can see the Translate gizmo in the viewport. We can use the 3 axes to move the selected object in a specific direction by holding down the left mouse button on one of the axes and dragging the mouse in the direction we'd like to move the object in. The same rule applies to rotating and scaling objects with their respective tools. If we use the connecting line between 2 axes with the Translate or Scale tools active, we can move or scale an object in 2 directions simultaneously. We can also use the white pivot in the center of the tool gizmo to move along all axes at once or scale uniformly in all axes. All of these controls function the same way in an orthographic view, but we can only move or scale along 2 axes that align with the current orthographic view. For example, if we're in the top view, we can move an object in the X and Y axes. You can use a measurement tool by holding down the middle mouse button and dragging the mouse, which shows the number of units for its length. Now, let's get familiar with the controls to look and fly in our level. In addition to the orthographic section, we'll also list the controls for an Apple Magic Mouse and Magic Trackpad as they are different from a standard mouse. First, let's get started with a standard mouse and jump back into perspective view. By holding down the right mouse button and dragging, we can rotate the viewport camera to look around the level. In an orthographic view, holding down the right mouse button and dragging will pan the camera. Continuing in orthographic, holding both left and right mouse buttons and dragging the mouse will zoom the camera in and out. We can achieve the same results by scrolling up or down with the mouse wheel, but this will incrementally move the camera in and out. Let's take a look at achieving the same results when using an Apple Magic Mouse and Magic Trackpad. We'll start with the perspective view. Moving and rotating the camera works in a similar way for a Magic Mouse. On a Magic Trackpad though, clicking and holding with one finger and dragging will move the camera and rotate it. Pressing and holding with 2 fingers and dragging will rotate the viewport camera. In an orthographic view, you can click with 1 finger and drag to create a marquee selection box. Pressing with 2 fingers and dragging will pan the viewport camera. Now, let's take a look at moving around in a level. In a perspective view, by holding down the left mouse button and dragging, we can move the camera forward and backward and rotate it left and right. If we hold down both left and right mouse buttons and drag, we can move the camera up, down, left, and right without rotation. Holding down the middle mouse button and dragging the mouse will result in the same movement. When you hold down the right mouse button, different controls become available for moving the viewport camera. While holding down the right mouse button, by using the W, A, S, and D keys, you can fly forward, left, back, and right. The E and Q keys can be used to move the camera up and down vertically. You can also drag the mouse while moving to rotate the camera and fly towards a different direction. If you scroll up or down with the mouse wheel, you will increase or decrease the speed of the camera movement. Next, let's take a look at controls for orbiting the camera around an object or the pivot point of an object. By selecting an object in the level and pressing the F key, the camera will focus on the selected object. This will move the camera closer to the object and put it as the camera's focal point for orbiting. If you then hold down the Alt key and the left mouse button at the same time, you can drag your mouse around to orbit the camera around a focused object or point of interest when multiple objects are selected. If you instead hold down Alt and the right mouse button and drag your mouse, it will dolly the camera, which will move the camera toward and away from this focal point. Next, let's take a look at display controls. By pressing the G key, you can toggle game mode, which causes the viewport to render only what would be seen in-game so that you don't see editor-only gizmos and volume outlines by turning them invisible. If you hold down Control and press R, you can toggle real-time playback in the active viewport. This disables the viewport from updating each frame. However, anytime you're moving through the world, the frame will update. This can be useful for performance-intensive scenes to make working in them use fewer resources. If you press the F11 key, you can toggle immersive mode, which puts the viewport into full screen. And finally, you can customize the navigation, controls, and overall look and feel of the viewport through the editor preferences. To access these options, you can go to Edit, Editor Preferences, Level Editor, and Viewport. In the control section, you can adjust settings that are related to viewport navigation, such as camera movement speed and mouse sensitivity. In the look and feel section, you can customize how the viewport appears and behaves to match your preferences. This includes options for enabling arc ball rotation, which can be used to rotate in multiple directions simultaneously while using the rotate tool. And that is it for this video. We hope that this was helpful in learning about how to navigate viewports in Unreal Engine. Thanks for watching.